So soothing that week that was. Needing to be soothing after the kind of news that came across this past weekend, starting with the whole thing in Las Vegas. It was abysmal. It was terrible the way you had to sit there and watch time after time after time. And more importantly, a total lack of closure or information. And I mentioned last week a couple of times, always question authority. Well, you know what? Also, always question news. I'm not going to say fake news, but news is news. It's just something that's out there that you read and for you to start your information with, not something that should dictate all your knowledge. So what was this all about? No one knows. The police chief you've seen all this time, he doesn't know. The people investigating, evidently, they don't know. Millions on the internet, they've all got theories, but they don't know. Something this horrendous rarely happens for no particular reason. You know, nut jobs like this, they've got a reason behind what happened. And this one happened at a country music festival. Pretty amazing stuff. Number two on the week that was, and kind of the way things that happened the way they do. Steve Scalise, the representative, made a miraculous comeback. Great time, showed up, walked in on crutches at Congress, made his speech, talked about just about everything you expected him to talk about. But I really think he caught a lot of people off guard when he was asked in interviews if his thoughts on the Second Amendment had changed because of what he'd just gone through.
Have your experience of your own and what you saw in Las Vegas, has it changed how you feel about any of that?
I think it's fortified it because, first of all, you've got to recognize that, you know, when there's a tragedy like this, the first thing we should be thinking about is praying for the people who were injured and doing whatever we can to help them, to help law enforcement. We shouldn't first be thinking of promoting our political agenda. And I think we see too much of that where people say, oh, okay, now you have to have gun control. Well, first of all, look at some of those bills. Those bills wouldn't have done anything to stop this. I mean, the gunmen actually cleared background checks. Yeah. So to promote some kind of gun control, I think, is the wrong way to approach this. And frankly, what I experienced was when there was a shooter, luckily we had Capitol Police there with their own guns. Every single day in America, regular citizens that just have a passionate belief in the Second Amendment, that have their own guns, use guns every single day to protect themselves against criminals. And those stories never get told or hardly ever get told. But that's a different side of the story that I think is important, that people use guns way more to defend themselves from criminals than criminals using guns to hurt people.
Well said. Steve Scalise, fantastic. No one could say it probably better, and for what he's been through, it's pretty incredible that he's this well and doing this well as soon as he is. Next up on the week that was, it was a bad week for one of Hollywood's movie moguls, Harvey Weinstein. He's being accused by several women of sexual harassment over decades. Now, you'd expect it came out during the week. Hey, SNL had all kinds of... No, they didn't. They got around to Trump. But, of course, one of their own, Harvey, doesn't really get treated. They said he's from here, so we couldn't really criticize him at this point. I guess Trump's not from New York, I guess. But that doesn't stop them. Weinstein has had this pattern for years and years, is just now finally starting to catch the blowback. He was fired yesterday in a late move by his own company. And that's something people take as this big revelation. They want this story to go away. Don't fool yourself. Hollywood wants this story to go away, because if it doesn't go away, people are going to start talking about the pedophilia. They're going to start talking about the young boys and young girls that are taken advantage of on the casting couches. Remember that term, casting couch? That was always, some woman was taken advantage of. No, it isn't just women. And that's why Hollywood wants this story to go away so fast, is to kind of hide their own little dirty laundry. And they'll do everything they can to make it go away as fast as they can. Our last story of the week that isn't going away anytime really soon, it would seem, is the whole kneeling for the anthem thing. And Vice President Mike Pence was at the Colts game. He's from Indiana. They honored Peyton Manning at pregame, had a statue, Ring of Honor, all that stuff. But after the national anthem, where 23 of the 49er players knelt before the game, very well coordinated effort by them, I must say, he issued this tweet about him leaving because he thinks it disrespects the flag, the soldiers, and the national anthem, which is 100% of how I feel. And you can't have it both ways. You can't choose that venue as a protest and then say it's not about that venue. That's why you chose it, Sparky. Okay? You got that one? But people don't understand that. People don't want to sort of pay attention to that. The guy that kind of got this all going last year was Colin Kaepernick. And Kaepernick kneeled, and now he's out of work. And there was a story late yesterday by Jason LaConfort at CBS that Kaepernick would be willing to stand if he could find a job in the NFL. Well, problem with that story, as much coverage as it got initially, it wasn't true. And it took his girlfriend, which as usual, Colin doesn't speak for himself real often, but his girlfriend was quick to point out that he's never said that and he would never do that. And then trailing along last night, you had more directly from Colin that said he never said that. So status quo on the Colin Kaepernick front.